Welcome to the Savvy Sauce, where we have practical chats for intentional living. I'm your host, Laura Duggar, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's message is not intended for little ears. We'll be discussing some adult themes, and I want you to be aware before you listen to this message. Lehman Property Management Company has the apartment you will be able to call home, with over 1,700 apartment units available in Central Illinois. Visit them today at lehmanproperties.com or connect with them on Facebook. Emily Macleod Wolfe is my returning guest for today. Last time we talked about everything related to gut health, and I'll make sure to link that episode in the show notes for today's episode. I would highly recommend that you begin there because there's a lot of overlap with solutions as then we transition today into our topic about female hormones, the menstruation cycle, and how to make everything better and even end up grateful to God for our female cycle. Here's our chat. Welcome back to the Savvy Sauce, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me again, Laura. I'm so excited about this section.
Yes, can you just give us a brief reminder of the work that you get to do before we dive in?
Yes, so I am a holistic nurse practitioner. I was trained traditionally in traditional medicine at Vanderbilt, and then I went on to do from my own personal health journey, I knew I wanted to do more holistic medicine. So I went on and did functional medicine, natural medicine training. So now I have a practice called Pure Integrative Health, which is to blend the best of the both worlds and to get basically to root cause medicine.
Well, and we covered all things gut health last time, but I've been so excited to interview you about hormones. So as best as you can, could you just give us Hormones 101?
Yeah. And first of all, if you didn't hear the last episode, I would recommend go back to listen to the previous one because the gut health is the precursor that builds to the hormones. And I don't recommend even trying to address the hormones unless you've got some of the gut healing going because they are so interconnected, even in the way in which we don't want to be recycling hormones. So constipation is causing an excess hormone recycling that should not be happening. So again, healthy gut health is going to help the hormones. But yes, so for women or for men or what hormones would you like me to describe?
I think we're just going to focus on women's hormones today because I want to get more into our cycle as well.
Oh, great question. Yeah. Okay. So for women, we have the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, not nearly as high levels of testosterone as men. They can be highly driven off of it. If the testosterone is too high in women, then we look at things like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, excess androgen. So it could be like abnormal hair growth, extra oily skin, acne. Those are some signs of like maybe high testosterone, but also could be from high cortisol, which is the stress hormone that's made in the adrenal glands that sits on top of the kidneys and produces stress hormone. Now we'll explain how the adrenals and the stress hormone cortisol affects some of the sex hormones, but those ones, and then there's one called DHEA, and that is the precursor hormone to testosterone. So we got estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. Pregnenolone is like the master hormone in which all the hormones can be made out of, and the cholesterol actually funnels into pregnenolone. And then, so our cholesterol is necessary. We do need good cholesterol to help all the hormones. So yes, that's why good healthy fats and things like that are really, really helpful. Like olive oil and avocado and baking, broiling, and grilling things and all of that. The cholesterol, pregnenolone, master hormone. We got DHEA, which is the precursor to testosterone. And then testosterone can be the hormone that converts into estrogen. So they're all connected. They're all very connected. So excess estrogen could be from too high testosterone. anyhow, they're all over the place sometimes for women, and they do fluctuate just even within 28 days. So I'll kind of explain that, and then we can kind of go from there. So we talked about cortisol. There's a lot of other hormones, but I was just telling you about the sex hormones. So that's necessary to understand a cycle of a woman. So when we start cycling, and then we have a couple different phases. We have the follicular phase, which is the first day. 1 is the day you start bleeding, and then day 14 is typically the day that we ovulate. So day 1, we have estrogen starts to increase. We've kind of bottomed out, and usually on our cycle, most women feel a little bit lower energy. I mean, we're bleeding and menstruating, and so some women lose a lot of iron, and ferritin levels can go down a lot during that. So we want to eat very iron rich, lots of leafy greens, vegetables, good healthy fats to support. I kind of describe each week of our cycle almost like a season. It's like winter is the first 7 days of the bleeding, and then we've got spring, but then we start to feel really good, and everything is good, and then we got summer and we're doing great, and then we've got fall. And so we can kind of eat accordingly to this, almost seasonally for the hormones too. So we've got the first 7 days lower energy because estrogen and progesterone are pretty bottomed out, but they start to gradually increase. Now estrogen really starts to increase, and then right around day 14 it comes down, and then progesterone takes over. And so right there is the ovulation, and that's where the ovaries will release an egg, and has the opportunity to be fertilized or not in the middle of the month. And it all very much interconnects with our moods and how we're feeling. And people have heard of PMS, premenstrual syndrome. You felt the hormonal changes and all of that. But there's definitely ways that we can kind of mitigate the extreme highs and lows. Like some people deal with depression-like feelings and like really big mood swings. We can work on leveling those things more so that they're not so drastic through certain things I'll describe. But anyhow, we've got follicular phase, estrogen, we've got the luteal phase, we got ovulation, then we got the luteal phase is where progesterone is really increasing and decreasing, and that's days 14 to 28 of the cycle. So we got first phase, second phase, and 2. We can break it down even more to 4 weeks, and we've got like the first week lower energy, but that's like you can even connect it to emotions and how the maximizing efficiency for work based off of your cycle, because even you're not supposed to make a really big life decision during the menstruating week because that's just low energy and all that. But it's a good time to dream and brainstorm. Hopefully you're taking time to rest, take care of your body, Epsom salt baths, rich in magnesium, eating those good foods, giving nutrients. If your body needs, you get your iron levels checked and your ferritin levels, your practitioner might give you an iron supplement that you're kind of taking in conjunction, depending on that. And so we're resting and resetting and having time to journal, dream, and brainstorm things for the, hopefully the next, and then the next week, the estrogen's coming up a lot and starting to feel back to normal self, usually really good, and feeling that surge, the mood starts to get better. It's a great time to start to do like some good heavy weightlifting, and exercise can even be based around cycle 2. For menstruation, you're probably going to want to do a little bit more lower impact and walking and stretching, Pilates, things like that, and then or bar and all that. And then weightlifting, that second week is great. And then also that's around ovulation, is that's where we feel more loving and affectionate and different things, and the way that God designed our body literally to want to be with a man around that time, and that's procreation time. And then right around the after ovulation, that third week and fourth week can start to get challenging because that's where, well, sometimes that third week is a good sweet spot, but the fourth week, the week before the period, yeah, like the days 19 to 21, and then like after that, that's where some mood swings can start to happen, and the estrogens come down a lot. Progesterone, depending on where the body's at, most women are deficient in progesterone overall. So if it's already decreasing, it was a peak in the third week and then it's decreasing, going towards menstruating again, then it's a recipe for not sleeping great, mood swings, irritability, bloating, breast tenderness. That can be estrogen imbalances, excess estrogen, low progesterone like symptoms. And then, yeah, that was a lot.
That's so helpful. I want, right before we move on, because I want to hear how to mitigate some of those symptoms. But first, you mentioned eating seasonally, even each week. So is that what you're saying, that we eat more of those winter foods that day 1 to 7? And could you give an example for each phase? Just one example, what that might look like.
Sweet potato, like the foods that you would find more in the winter. So you're kind of doing like sweet potatoes and like I said, the fatty food, like a healthy fat, Mediterranean, definitely right around the cycle. Body craves, if you find yourself craving chocolate, it's probably because your body's deficient in magnesium. Most of us are. So some women will use it as an excuse to have chocolate. Guilty as charged. But actually it's a magnesium deficiency, but chocolate has magnesium in it. So, and if you get a rich, like a dark chocolate, if you're not sensitive to chocolate and you could do one that's a really dark and doesn't have a ton of sugar, then that could be a good source. But just foods rich in magnesium, dark leafy greens, avocados, nuts, and really checking levels and magnesium, Epsom salt baths, things like that. That's going to be great. You're going to want to do that also kind of the week before the period too, in the fall, like foods. So, like the squashes, and you kind of like the baked vegetables and protein, and then like in the spring, like the week after, then maybe you're doing more like, berries and things that you would have in the springtime and summer, different types of meat that you would like, lean chicken and turkey, and then harvest like food for that week before the period to give you good. There's something called seed cycling. So the pumpkin seeds and sesame and sunflower is for days 14 to 28 of the cycle, so the second half, that gives the body the micronutrients needed to help support progesterone. And then pumpkin and wow, I'm really blanking, probably because I need to eat lunch. But we can come back. It's going to come back to me. The pumpkin and the...
Is it chia?
No, flax.
Flax. Okay. Flax seed.
Pumpkin and flax for days 1, the day we start bleeding, 2, ovulation, day 14, and then sesame and sunflower, days 14 to 28. So like adding those into smoothies, handful of nuts, nut butter, sunflower seed butter, those kinds of things. That can also kind of support the cycle naturally and give the body the nutrients that are needed to support the body like that.
Okay, I have heard about seed cycling before. So it kind of ties into the other question I had, because I wondered if it's normal to have really painful and heavy menstrual cycles, or is that an indicator that something's not right and maybe we need to bring in something like seed cycling?
Mm-hmm. Yes, painful, heavy menstruation, that's not normal. I personally have dealt with them, so I understand they are awful, and they can leave some women, nauseous, throwing up, vomiting, breast tenderness. Now, that's signs of excess estrogen that likely needs to be detoxed, and I would recommend going to a holistic practitioner and asking them to do a saliva hormone testing panel. Actually, I don't have it with me right now, but it's basically these vials of saliva that you spit right when you wake up, lunchtime, dinner time, bedtime, and it'll check sex hormones between days 19 to 21 of the cycle. We're checking peak progesterone time so we can look at the most accurate depiction if you're cycling. It's still possible to do it if you're postmenopausal and want to do the test. We could do it at any time, but it's a saliva hormone test. It's the most accurate way to measure hormones and see exactly what's going on, because we can check blood work, but it's just like a little shot in the dark. But the saliva is the more accurate picture of what's going on. So I would recommend, if you're having really heavy menstrual cycle, yes, you can try the seed cycling to start. That's harmless to try, but there might be more things going on like that really need to be seen by a practitioner to help either support what hormone is low or detox another hormone that is excess. Now, we are overall in our society getting a lot of excess estrogen, and that can be through plastics. We get a lot, like trying to switch even just a bottle, as I'm drinking through. Don't do this. Plastics. We don't want to try and drink as much plastic out of plastic. We want to do like glass water bottles, and like stainless steel water bottles better, unless you're in a crazy rush and you forgot to bring one. It's better drink some water than no water, because you got to stay hydrated to have healthy bowel movements, to have energy to our cells, all of that. A good water filter that filters out fluoride, chlorine, those things will affect the thyroid very much so, and thyroid hormones affect sex hormones and etc. So we want to get a good filter for the water so that we don't have to deal with the after effects of thyroid imbalances, or if you're already dealing with thyroid imbalances. I understand, because I've dealt with that myself, and so we want to remove as many stressors, because the thyroid needs iodine just to function, and if we're getting fluoride and chlorine, those particular elements compete for iodine in the body, so we got to get those out as best as we can and get rid of excess estrogen through plastics and chemicals and detergents, like all of the chemicals that are exposed in detergents and cleaning products. As much as we can clean those up as well, it's going to be very, very helpful for thyroid, very helpful for sex hormones.
Oh, that's interesting. So those, I don't even think of that, are like store brand names for detergents, that those could be endocrine disruptors, you're saying?
Yes, great. Yes. So endocrine disruptors are things that are going to cause imbalances to the thyroid, the sex hormones, or any of their other hormones in the body. Yes. So we definitely want to try and stay away from those things.
Let's take a quick break to hear a message from our sponsor. With over 1,700 apartment units available throughout Pekin, Peoria, Peoria Heights, Morton, Washington, and Canton, and with every price range covered, you will have plenty of options when you rent through Lehman Property Management Company. They have townhomes, duplexes, studios, and garden-style options located in many areas throughout Pekin. In Peoria, a historic downtown location and apartments adjacent to the OSF Medical Center provide excellent choices. Check out their brand new luxury property in Peoria Heights overlooking the boutique shops and fine dining on Prospect. And in Morton, they offer a variety of apartment homes with garages, a hot downtown location, and now a brand new high-end complex near Idlewood Park. Their beautiful, spacious apartments with private garages in a quiet but convenient location await you in Washington. And if you're looking in Canton, don't miss Village Square Apartments. Renters may be excited to learn about their flexible leases, pet-friendly locations, and even mini storage units available in some locations. Lehman Property Management Company has a knowledgeable and helpful staff, including several employees with over 30 years working with this reputable company. If you want to become a part of their team, contact them about open office positions. They're also hiring in their maintenance department, so we invite you to find out why so many people have chosen to make a career with them. Check them out on Facebook today or email their friendly staff at leasing@lehmanprops.com. You can also stop by their website at lehmanproperties.com. That's LEMAN properties.com. Check them out and find your place to call home today.
Okay, so I'm even thinking, so females my age or friends or older or younger women listening, even we have 4 daughters. And so as they grow and mature, all of this is helpful, I'm assuming, to start at a young age with getting rid of some of those toxins or not microwaving food on plastic plates. But then also you said detox. Is that through hydration or did you mean something else with detoxification?
I can't get into this unless I saw somebody as a patient because I can't give across the board recommendation for this. But I will say, because there are certain supplements and things that might be needed, say there's excess estrogen in the body, there might be certain supplements that that person needs to help bring down those excess estrogen levels aside from food. But one thing that I do know that you can eat that helps overall is the more that you love and detoxify the liver, it's what has to process all the hormones. One thing is broccoli sprouts, not broccoli sprouts. So, microgreen sprouts, those ones. The broccoli sprouts are incredible at helping getting rid of the bad kinds of estrogen, detoxed those out of the body. So that's really good. Cruciferous vegetables. Cooking your cruciferous vegetables, though, because if you eat them raw, it can affect the thyroid negatively.
Wow.
So it could cause goiters, and so we don't want that. It could be goitrogenic, essentially. So we don't want that, but you could cook cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, etc. Those cruciferous vegetables, spinach, all that. And those are great also.
Okay.
For that.
So that can help.
The best one is the broccoli sprouts, yes. And then getting saliva hormone testing done and seeing exactly where your body is at.
Okay, because I'm wondering then, could that even be a mineral deficiency when you're talking about supplements?
There definitely could be mineral deficiencies. Like I said, I've seen a lot of different variations, right? Excess estrogen, low progesterone, menopausal, low everything. Once the hormones bottom out, then they're kind of low across the board, and the body might need bioidentical hormones to have extra support. It's cardioprotective, protective against cancers, protective for the bones, different things like that. Bioidentical is different than synthetic. Synthetic hormones is like birth control, but synthetic hormones can go see the last episode when we talk about leaky gut, intestinal permeability, but the birth control can actually cause intestinal permeability too. So that's a big problem. Leaky gut can be from birth control, the synthetic birth control. And then the body's not even able to ovulate. It's not able to release. There's just like the way that God designed it is we're actually, if you allow it to look at it as like a cleansing and a purging every month, that spiritually the Lord, if we allow the Lord, we don't have to dread it. It's so common in the society to dread a period or, oh my gosh, again, here we go. But how beautiful. It's a celebration of the ability to give life. It's an opportunity to take some time to rest. It's a beautiful time to take some time to sit back and reflect, especially that week before the period. Also try and not make big decisions the week before, because the progesterone's bottomed out, causing mood swings, and then making decisions is going to be a lot more stressful and can lighten your load on work a little bit that week before, a few days prior to your period. That would be very helpful. Stress levels really impact a cycle, and also just trying to prepare the body for going through perimenopause and then menopause. Wherever you're at in your health journey, life journey, it's just so good to educate younger women to be really taking care of their adrenals, which is the organ that produces stress hormone, because high cortisol, which is the stress hormone produced by the adrenal glands, zaps progesterone. And most women, that's probably why I see a lot of progesterone dipping so quickly. You need progesterone to have a healthy pregnancy. So we're seeing a lot more miscarriages and infertility problems. Could be from low progesterone. And then that will eventually bottom out with menopause, because the ovaries are not producing it anymore. And the only place that we have progesterone left in reserves is in the adrenal glands. And so if the stress has been going on for so long, then even the reserves or the backups are gone of progesterone, which is why I see a lot of women going through a more extreme version of menopause than with the night sweats and the hot flashes and all those things that maybe didn't even have to happen, because if we take care of it on the earlier end of managing stress levels, going to bed at good times, getting full amount of sleep. Women need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I will just go ahead and say that, because our hormones are very dependent on our adrenal function. Men, they don't really have to rely on their adrenals as much as their other sex hormones and locations. So they don't have to deal with it as much as the women. So we're constantly tied to a function of our adrenals really affects our sex hormones like crazy, and we're not getting the right amount of sleep, then we're going to have high stress levels, high cortisol, and then the high cortisol is going to zap the sex hormones. So we need those reserves to be replenished, and the cortisol levels drop and melatonin kicks in, and we're going to sleep so much better and sleep so much deeper.
Wow, this is fascinating. And I love how you're even celebrating the cycle and how God created it, because I'm forgetting one of them, but I heard that menstrual blood was tested and they saw that it was detoxifying plastics and pesticides. And there was one other thing that the body was using that to eliminate. And so that's a reminder just to be grateful for that too.
To be grateful. And the birth control pill, it's a temporary fix. There are alternative forms of birth control that do not have the synthetic hormones that are good options, and the synthetic hormones, though, I've firsthand seen it with patients, negatively impact the thyroid, and a lot of them have had to end up on thyroid medication just simply due to years and years of birth control and it impacting the thyroid and the cellular health, as well as the lining of the gut and a lot of other side effects that I'm not, weight gain, different things, and then the body not even being able to menstruate and fully excrete things, and or even, the cycle is an indicator, I think, for women very much of like your monthly health, like how am I doing? Like if I'm having a really bad period, likely it was something that I had done this past month. Okay, did I eat right? Was I sleeping? Was I incredibly stressed? Usually you can trace it back to that. Now, there's obviously other cases where, PCOS and ruptured ovaries and different things like that, or ruptured cysts on the ovary, then that can contribute to longer term diseases, but it's almost like a litmus test to see how our bodies are doing.
I like that perspective. And Emily, you're so great at giving proactive tips, and I love easy wins. So what are some of the best practices that you recommend for women to support healthy hormones and healthy adrenals in our bodies all month long?
One is glucose management. So protein, I cannot emphasize it enough. Protein sources, good, healthy, as much as you can, grass-fed, organic meat. So you're not getting the synthetic hormones from them, because who knows what they're being fed and what they're being pumped with. But those sources, protein, other sources of protein, that's going to give you up to 15 hours of energy. So that is incredible as far as eating for energy. I will say if you can do that, that's it's incredible. It's a game changer. Eating for energy. Protein, vegetables give us up to 5 to 6 hours of energy. And then carbs. Carbs give us, like if we had a piece of fruit, it only lasts in the system for 15 minutes. Or potato chips, something like that, 15 minutes. That's not very long. And then the body says, I'm hungry again. Then we end up overeating because we just had the carbs and we're not full. And so that's why pairing the meals around the protein and then the fiber and then a healthy fat, or like the protein, the fiber, and a complex carb, sweet potato, brown rice, quinoa, things like that, is going to stabilize the blood sugar so there will not be cortisol, stress levels spiked. When we don't eat for too long, then it can cause the body to go into stress overload. And there's 4 different stages of adrenal fatigue, cortisol, and that can affect the body very much so. And so spikes and crashes in glucose spike and crash the cortisol. And then spikes in cortisol will steal your progesterone. And then cause imbalances because progesterone keeps the estrogen in check. So then you got estrogen and progesterone imbalances. And then there's DHEA, which is the other hormone that's made in the adrenals. So sometimes DHEA is incredible for building muscle, keeping muscle, concentration, memory. It's wonderful. Libido, all sorts of those things. Now, DHEA just decreases as we age. It's the precursor to testosterone as well, but it's also made in the adrenal glands. And so the more we can regulate cortisol and adrenal, sometimes high levels of stress, we got to go back and think, okay, we might not even feel stress, but if there's been physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual trauma, those are serious things that the body will hold on to. And unless you have gone to process, I recommend getting a Christian counselor and process those things, because the body can literally still be holding on to it 20, 30, 40 years if it's not been let go and given to Jesus. And so that is also huge. We can't dismiss that or just try and fix the physical. If there's been some stressors and the body has just been in survival mode and has to just keep going, then maybe it only knows how to live off of high cortisol stress reserves to just keep going. It doesn't. But if you have a hard time falling asleep, a hard time unwinding, feel like you're always on the go, those are like adrenal stages 1 and 2, high cortisol. But then that eventually will start to plummet, and then it's more difficult time getting out of bed, not jumping straight out, crash in the afternoon with energy, crash after dinner, crash before bed, or like wired and tired, like wired, the brain's wired, the body feels tired but can't go to sleep. And then further stages, waking up between 2 and 4 in the morning, could be blood sugar, adrenal issues as well. So
could you speak a little bit more into that? Is the blood sugar related to the adrenal issues if you're waking up at that 2 to 4 a.m. time?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it can be. The body's signaling that the blood sugars drop too low, and then the cortisol has to, it can signal to the cortisol and the adrenals to spike, to just keep the body going, survive. And then all of a sudden cortisol is spiking at night, which it should not. It should be done. And melatonin should be happening at night, and then cortisol in the daytime. So if there's a cortisol spike because of a glucose crash, then we need to support it with, it could be a spoonful of almond butter before bed, a handful of nuts, some protein before bed could help someone, in the middle of the night, stabilize the blood sugar. It could be a blood sugar issue because blood sugar and cortisol are interconnected, but also should just check your cortisol levels. Go get a saliva. It's that saliva 4-point test checks for sex hormones and cortisol, or it can. So
Okay, one more thing with that. So then the blood sugar dropping that low, is that somebody who's maybe closing their eating window too early in the day, or they're not getting enough sugar throughout the day? Is that what you're saying with why would it drop to that level and require cortisol?
Great question. It could be the person's not eating enough throughout the day, and the body just doesn't have the right. So if the person was fasting quite frequently and doing that a lot, now everyone's body is different. If you have adrenal imbalances, I do not recommend doing fasting because the body is already under stress, and then fasting can put extra stress on the body. So then you're like, well, but then they said that if I fast and I should lose weight, and if you're fasting and you're gaining belly fat and you're gaining weight, it's a telltale sign. Cortisol, because high cortisol level, puffy face, belly fat, stubborn. You can eat right, exercise, try and do everything, and it will not leave. That's usually survival mode, body's trying to self-protect. And so we don't want to be fasting very much if there's cortisol imbalances. Now, if there's not, and if you had your cortisol checked, then there's great benefits to doing intermittent fasting and things. And even biblically, spiritually, there's incredible benefits to fasting. The Lord knows the cells literally repair themselves, regenerate, and can eat up cancer cells if we put our bodies into that ketosis state for good bit. But that is not something I would recommend doing high intensity exercise, or that's going to put a lot of cortisol stress on the body, high impact, or skipping a lot of meals. So that could be why the blood sugar is like dropping in the middle of the night.
I just wanted to let you know there are now multiple ways to give when you visit thesavvysauce.com. We now have a donation button on our website, and you can find it under the donate page, which is under the tab entitled Support. Our mailing address is also provided if you would prefer to save us the processing fee and send a check that is tax deductible. Either way, you'll be supporting the work of Savvy Sauce Charities and helping us continue to reach the nations with the good news of Jesus Christ. Make sure you visit thesavvysauce.com today. Thanks for your support. Is there anything else that we haven't gotten to discuss yet that you want to make sure we don't miss out on?
So when do you know if you're in perimenopause versus menopause? And like I said, if you're a woman in your 20s and you're like, that does not apply to me, actually it does, because it's just, you don't want to get to menopause and have no reserves of progesterone left because you've depleted it from high levels of cortisol over the years. So lifestyle changes, the protein, smaller, more frequent meals, the consistent bedtime, trying to go to bed before midnight, like 10 p.m. is like a sweet spot. 10 p.m. to 2 is when the liver detoxes, when cholesterol gets flushed, all these different things. Melatonin window for the body to like fall asleep and stay asleep is between 10 p.m. and there's sometimes it's even earlier. It just depends on the person. And I actually use a little app called Rise, but it does a good job kind of helping you track where your melatonin and when your wake window, when to cut off eating, and when to kind of wear blue light blocking glasses to prevent your body to. Blue light helps. We said this in the last one, but blue light actually tells your body to stay awake. So you don't want to be on your screens too late at night, or your body's going to be sending these signals to stay awake when you're trying to wind down. So using softer lighting, doing candlelit, just mimicking outside. When the sun goes down, we should be going down, going down to bed and asleep. And the sun wakes up, that's when we should, be getting up as well. So, and getting that morning sunlight like we talked about.
So important. And I forgot one quick follow-up question. When you talked about cortisol, too high of cortisol contributing to belly fat that's stubborn or puffy face, what would the solution be? Is it just manage your stress better, or what's the takeaway there?
The takeaway is, yes, there's things you can do glucose-wise, blood sugar, and food that we've talked about. Lifestyle-wise, of course. I mean, a ton of it is we're an American society that trophies busyness, and like the Bible literally talks about the importance of rest and the Sabbath, and like even humans, we were made on day 6, but the first day we were actually doing things, Adam and Eve, was day 7, was the day of rest. My dad's a pastor, and he actually just gave a sermon on rest and the Sabbath just last week at Harvest Sound. But it was just all about we were created out of rest. Like we're there to start doing things out of that place of rest. And we just don't take that time. I mean, it's like, okay, we got to go, got to take care of the kids, got to go do this, got to do this. How are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. How about you? Like, it's almost like a trophy thing to say that, but really, like, how about prioritizing that time? And it's so easy, especially as women and mothers, to just say, oh, but I just want to take care of everybody else. But like, if you were to have a date with your friend, you wouldn't go overbook it with something else. You would prioritize that. Or you're going to go do something for your child, you're going to prioritize that. So I need you to also take time to prioritize your me time, prioritize the time. It's not selfish. It's necessary, because you're going to be a better wife. You're going to be a better mom. You're going to be a better friend if you take care of the needs, whether that's taking an Epsom salt bath once a week, and that's spending time morning sunlight, or writing a list of gratitude, doing things, write a list of things that bring you joy, and just pick 2 or 3 of those a day. Like, build that in. Life's too short. Literally, cortisol will kill you. Also, we didn't talk about that, but it takes minutes off your life. So life's too short to have unnecessary cortisol spikes. So as much as we can, it's prioritizing that, learning the healthy boundaries, saying no when needed to, and not saying yes to everything, so that it's a lot of those lifestyle things, and then fine-tuning it with a health practitioner is great, because everybody's spikes and crashes are in different places. Some people have high cortisol. Some people further on into the adrenal fatigue have low cortisol, because the body doesn't have any more cortisol to give. And that's a whole other symptoms of exhaustion and fatigue. And they might need actually glandular support and totally different supplements than someone that's got high cortisol, but they can present similarly as far as stubborn weight, puffiness, energy spikes and crashes, and different things like that.
So how incredible to get to follow up with a health professional then, and you are certainly one that we would recommend. And so even if we're out of state, but we could make a first appointment with you and figure out some way to do telehealth, can you just give us your website or share what you have to offer so that we can maybe make a follow-up appointment after this conversation?
So it's pureintegrativehealth.com, and then you can click on the tab Become a Patient. Just fill that form out, and then we can talk about, a plan. If you're in Tennessee, great. We can just right away, we know you're in person. If you are out of state, I have to see you in person for the first initial eval, and then we can come up with some hybrid plan of telemedicine in between visits, and legally just need to be able to see you still once a year or something in person, but we could do the rest in telemedicine options. So yeah.
It's a wonderful option. We will link to that in the show notes for today's episode. And Emily, you're already familiar that we're called the Savvy Sauce because savvy is synonymous with practical knowledge or insight. And so as my final question for you today, what is your Savvy Sauce?
Well, in regards to this topic today with hormones, I would say my Savvy Sauce is actually, it would be around getting that bedtime routine down packed in order to have an 8 to 10 hours of like actual sleep, because the mind does a brain sweep and gets rid of toxins in the brain between 7.5 hours and 9 hours. Like that, it's happened somewhere in that window. And so if we're skipping out on sleep, we're missing out. If you're getting even 6 hours, You're missing out on the neural brain sweep that actually gets rid of the toxins that prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, a lot of other problems. The metabolism at nighttime, the body literally burns fat at night. We have to get sleeping. And and if you're having problems sleeping, you're like, I want to sleep, but I haven't, then I would recommend start looking into different forms of magnesium. I can't get into it fully today because there's 7 different kinds of magnesium, but there are some that will actually help with sleep. And so talk with your practitioner about the best forms that could help you increase your sleep as well, because most of us can be deficient in that, and creating that really, really healthy rhythm. Just knowing your why behind why you're sleeping is also really helpful, because it's like you can hear a lot of people say, you need to get more sleep, I should go to bed, do this, but why? It's actually getting a neural sweep, liver is detoxing, cholesterol is cleansing. God does an incredible thing with our dreams. We're literally flushing and processing all the things from the day. And so talk about stress and adrenals. We got to help heal through our sleep.
Wow. Thank you for leaving us with that word. There's so much more we could cover. And ever since our first interaction, you have just been overflowing with kindness and graciousness and generosity with your time and sharing your knowledge. Oh, you're so kind. But I have just loved spending this time with you. Thank you so much, Emily, for being my repeat guest.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Laura, for having me again. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
One more thing before you go. Have you heard the term gospel before? It simply means good news, and I want to share the best news with you. But it starts with the bad news. Every single one of us were born sinners, but Christ desires to rescue us from our sin, which is something we cannot do for ourselves. This means there's absolutely no chance we can make it to heaven on our own. So for you and for me, it means we deserve death, and we can never pay back the sacrifice we owe to be saved. We need a Savior. But God loved us so much, He made a way for His only Son to willingly die in our place as the perfect substitute. This gives us hope of life forever in right relationship with Him. That is good news. Jesus lived the perfect life we could never live and died in our place for our sin. This was God's plan to make a way to reconcile with us so that God can look at us and see Jesus. We can be covered and justified through the work Jesus finished if we choose to receive what He has done for us. Romans 10:9 says that if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. So would you pray with me now? Heavenly Father, thank you for sending Jesus to take our place. I pray someone today, right now, is touched and chooses to turn their life over to you. Will you clearly guide them and help them take their next step in faith to declare you as Lord of their life? We trust you to work and change lives now for eternity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, you are declaring Him for me, so me for Him. You get the opportunity to live your life for Him. And at this podcast, we're called The Savvy Sauce for a reason. We want to give you practical tools to implement the knowledge you have learned. So you ready to get started? First, tell someone. Say it out loud. Get a Bible. The first day I made this decision, my parents took me to Barnes & Noble and let me choose my own Bible. I selected the Quest NIV Bible and I love it. You can start by reading the book of John. Also, get connected locally, which just means tell someone who's a part of a church in your community that you made a decision to follow Christ. I'm assuming they will be thrilled to talk with you about further steps, such as going to church and getting connected to other believers to encourage you. We want to celebrate with you too, so feel free to leave a comment for us here if you did make a decision to follow Christ. We also have show notes included where you can read scripture that describes this process. And finally, be encouraged. Luke 15:10 says, "In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who
repents. The heavens are praising with you for your decision today. And if you've already received this good news, I pray you have someone to share it with. You are loved, and I look forward to meeting you here next time.